Hi, it's me, Will Be Live, and I'm a degenerate imbecile. Okay. Man, get off my back, I'm doing a YouTube. No, you get a job. Hello, I'm here again in the middle of the ocean, looking very sexy with my merfolk trident, which I obtained in the last video, which I will link here. Wasn't that something special? I thought it was quite good, but no one watched it. Anyway, we must maintain momentum. The purpose of this series is for me, a relative noob, to experience activities that I've never had the chance to do before, and hopefully in the process make a meagre amount of gold pieces. Spoiler alert, driftnet fishing earns fuck all. Here's some beautiful cinematic shots of me running around farming jute, which I did over the course of about a week passively. 2 jute are required in order to make 1 driftnet, which is then used within driftnet fishing, funnily enough, the clue's in the name. You can of course buy the driftnets themselves from the GE, but this tends to be relatively expensive, especially if you're a dirty little scrub nub like me, or happen to be one of the Iron Men. So I ended up with around 240 driftnets, which is not insubstantial. You have to grease the fin of this sexy merfolk lady over here with 200 numulite, like some kind of weird carnival ride. I'm not entirely sure if she even works here, I didn't check her credentials. But then you squeeze through a pipe and enter what I like to call the Fish Death Arena. This harrowing place is so named because it's essentially where fish are condemned to die. Here fish are forced to flee from some twat in a fishbowl helmet, purely for the entertainment of their merfolk masters. In saying that, it's actually quite fun. Annette, whose name is obviously a very crap pun, is the maniacal overseer of the fish genocide. She looks completely demented and quite terrifying, to be perfectly honest. She does however prove to be quite useful. She'll hold on to the nets for you as you participate in the minigame. You can see here this is my first go at driftnet fishing, so I've only taken 2 nets out with me. Don't do this, bring out all of the nets. Fill your inventory. I actually found driftnet fishing to be almost immediately very satisfying. There's a pretty consistent flow of XP on the whole, and sometimes you'll get a little influx of those XP drops that go into your XP bar at the top there, giving you that dopamine hit that all of us RuneScape thrill seekers are really looking for. I also leveled up quite a few times during this process. Obviously I'm quite low level overall, so I'm looking at less XP per level, but between fishing and hunting I think I managed to obtain maybe 10 levels over the course of about an hour and a half. Here are my levels pre-grind and post-grind for your consideration. You can see the XP gained and the XP per hour is pretty substantial. These are stodgy helpings of XP that I'd wager would keep even the thickest of boys satisfied. It's more fishing XP than I would be getting from something like Temperos, granted without any of the rewards, which is the trade-off. And hunter-wise is probably more equivalent to what I'd expect to see from doing hunter rumors for maybe an hour and a half. It is however far less intensive than both of those aforementioned equivalents, which leaves your other hand free to perhaps paint a portrait or do your accounts, or perhaps have a one. You can see here that I thought the Fish Death Arena needed a bit of jazzing up, so I've drawn a few lines in the ground. I watched a man on the YouTubes who said that this would be a good idea because any fish beyond these lines are more likely to go into the nets. A bit later on I gave up on this altogether because it turns out, from my practice at least, that this has no bearing whatsoever on what the fish do. In my experience, if you were to click on one of the fish which is highlighted by the DriftNet plugin, which I installed, the fish that you've clicked on will eventually meander its way to the DriftNet, regardless of how far it is away from said net. It does however stand to reason that if you click on a fish nearer to a net, it will have less distance to travel and therefore will get to the net faster. So if you want to be ultra efficient, you might want to just stand by the net and kind of poach them. Basically the fish who are teetering on the cusp of death, you want to give a swift boot up the fish arse in order to usher them into their impending demise, faster than the ones who are very slightly further away. So here's what makes the Fish Death Arena even more heartless. The fact that once you've tortured them mercilessly enough with your trident and corralled them into the drift net, you then choose to inspect the catch and decide that hello darkness my old friend, it is completely worthless and should be incinerated. The most efficient way to continue your torture is to discard the catch altogether so that you may continue with your torture seamlessly.
Hooray!
Here's me hitting 60 under and becoming one of the biggest boys in all the land, and here's me checking clan chat to see if anyone was proud of me. Because my fragile ego needs reinforcing on a constant basis, or my tiny little cock will become inverted. There's not too much more to show in terms of driftnet fishing. It's not exactly the most riveting of gameplay loops. It's definitely my favourite way of leveling fishing that I've encountered so far. That's not to say I don't enjoy Temperos, I do think it's great, and obviously the chance at some good rewards is a huge bonus. But the fact that this is combined with hunting, which is one of my favourite skills, makes this, in my opinion, a really nice alternative to the more mainstream ways of leveling fishing and hunting. hunting. I did have a distinct feeling once I'd exhausted all my drift nets that I could go again for maybe another hour and a half quite comfortably, especially with the rate I was gaining XP. It felt really rewarding to see the levels go up. I think this is probably something that comes with the fact that both skills are quite equal in terms of XP gain, as opposed to something like cooking within Temperos, for example, which is a far more nominal gain than fishing and hunting here, which are far more equivalent. And here we find ourselves once again in the Dancing Donkey Inn. I would give driftnet fishing an 8 out of 10 on the Whale Advisor scale. I'm definitely going to be passively farming the jute, crafting the drift nets, and then going back there when I get the chance to do so. I would even probably consider maxing fishing by this method. I feel like I have a lot more to experience when it comes to fishing, but who knows what the future may hold. We will press on. I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for watching. That was a really nice way of you to spend your time, for me. I hope it was entertaining or informative or a little bit of both. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you'd like to see more, then subscribe.